The internships that I did at UC are insurmountable to my career path and where I am today. I worked for the City of Ontario first as an economic development intern, and then I worked for the City of Riverside in the city manager's office. And one really cool thing about having those two experiences right next to each other is I got to see how a really big city like Riverside worked, but also like seeing how different like a small suburban city like the city of Ontario is. And also I got to kind of like zero in on where exactly, like what department in city government I wanted to work in. And it was those experiences in internships that like really helped me in my decision making. At Kaest, we buy single family homes and turn those homes into multifamily developments. We're very purposeful in buying in city centers next to transit and where people live, work, play. Um, what led me to co-found is kind of two things. At the state level of California, I started to see a lot of legislation being passed that streamlines ADUs. And if you've ever worked in a community development department, you will soon see that getting permits is really hard. It takes a lot of time and it's super expensive. So the new legislation that this Assembly and Senate had passed really made it so the fees were cut, the timeline was cut. So it made it much more feasible to actually do projects like turn single family homes into like three or four unit like 3 or 4 units on a property. So I started to see that and I started to read the tea leaves, and then COVID hit, so I feel like this is also kind of a typical COVID story where, I was reevaluating my life. I was about to graduate. I did a master's in city and regional planning at Cal Poly. So I was right about to graduate from my master's program. And, my 5-year plan was actually to become a developer. But I started to think, well, why not now? What was preventing me from doing it now? And, after talking with my wife and looking at financials and talking with some of my friends who would potentially be investors, I started to realize this could be now. So I should do it now. And so that's kind of how I got there. And I'm glad I made the jump. I did have 3 years of working professionally and then a master's. So I was a little bit different, but I think the feeling is still the same. Like you will never be ready. That's the truth. I think for anything you will never be ready. You just have to do it. Like if you think like you have even 50% like gut feeling that it's right, and you've done kind of the sobering work of looking at financials, making a plan, and you still feel like it will work, then I think you should go ahead and do it, especially when you're young and you've been very thoughtful about it. What's the worst that can happen, especially if you have the background. Like I know there was a class that I took at UCR where you build a whole business plan, so you could graduate ready. You could graduate with a business plan for a business. Another thing that helped push me was I was in a community of entrepreneurs. And when you kind of surround yourself with business owners, like it starts to feel more real. It feels more doable. You have people that you can ask for advice, and people that are actually, boots on the ground doing these type of things. If you want to work in property development, I think there are 3 key skills that you need to possess. I would say number one is you need to be able to put together strong teams, and then you need to be able to lead those teams, which is really hard. Two, you need to be able to put together financing. And that means like you need to be able to pitch your project in a way that gets people excited and want to invest in your project. And three, in development, it's really big. So you need to be the jack of all trades, meaning you need to be able to speak construction to your GC, your general contractor. You need to be able to talk in architecture to your architect. You need to be able to understand planning when you're at plan check, and you have to understand real estate to work with your mortgage broker or realtor. So, if I would to kind of tell students to kind of hone in your project management skills, your understanding of finance, and if you want to actually like hone in on real estate, you need to understand construction, planning, architecture, and real estate. It's in our court, as millennials and Gen Z, to it is going to be our problem to fix the housing crisis. And it's, we need real solutions instead of creating policy that makes the problem not our problem, but somebody else's problem. We need to look at it like head on.